Where did Mary Shelley get the inspiration for Frankenstein? Originally published as Frankenstein or The Modern Prometheus on January 1st, 1818, Shelley started writing the story when she was 18, and the first edition was published anonymously when she was 20. Her name first appeared in the second edition in 1821. Mary Shelley was born Mary Wollstonecraft Godwin on August 30th, 1797 in London, England, to parents William Godwin and Mary Wollstonecraft. Shelley's mother died from infection 11 days after giving birth to her. Having never known her mother, Shelley grew close to her father. However, his second wife, Mary Jane Clairmont, did not like their close bond. The resulting friction caused Shelley's father to favor his other children. Fortunately, Shelley's father was a famous author in his time, so her education was very important to him, even though it was not formal. Shelley grew up surrounded by her father's friends, writers, and persons of political importance, who often gathered at the family house. This inspired her authorship at an early age. Mary, at the age of 16, met Percy Bysshe Shelley, who later became her husband, while he was visiting her father. Godwin, Shelley's father, did not approve of the relationship between his daughter and an older married man, so they fled to France along with her stepsister, Claire Clairmont. On February 22, 1815, Shelley gave birth prematurely to her first child, Clara, who died 2 weeks later. Shelley traveled through Europe in 1815, moving along the River Rhine in Germany, and stopped in Gernsheim, 11 miles away from the real-life Frankenstein castle. About a century earlier, Johann Conrad Dippel, an alchemist, had engaged in experiments here that, along with Galvanism, would completely change the world of literature and give us the genres of horror and science fiction. Dippel was born at Castle Frankenstein in 1673 and is the probable prototype for Dr. Frankenstein in Shelley's novel. Although it has never been confirmed, it is thought by some historians, not all, that there might have been rumors that Dippel experimented on cadavers in an attempt to create life. If Shelley had heard these stories, then Dippel's connection to the Doctor is a pretty solid theory. Galvanism is the idea that animal electricity remains in tissue after death, and that electrical currents and lead can stimulate this electricity to reanimate the dead. The concept of galvanism was inspired by the experiments of Luigi Galvani, an anatomist who observed that a frog's leg muscle twitched when his scissors touched a nerve. In the summer of 1816, Mary, Percy, and her stepsister Claire took a trip to Lake Geneva in Switzerland's Alps to visit Lord Byron, Claire's lover, and John William Polidori, Byron's personal physician. Poor weather conditions, more akin to winter, forced the party to stay indoors. This period was known as the Year Without a Summer. In 1815, the eruption of Mount Tambora caused the world to be locked in a long, cold volcanic winter. The weather was too cold and dreary that summer to enjoy the outdoor holiday activities Shelley and company had planned, so they stayed indoors. Galvanism and occult ideas were topics of conversation for the group, particularly for her lover and future husband, Percy Shelley. Sitting around a log fire at Byron's villa, the group passed the time by reading German ghost stories translated into French. Byron proposed that they each write a ghost story. Unable to think of a story, Mary Shelley became anxious. She recalled being asked, "Have you thought of a story?" each morning, and every time being forced to reply with a mortifying negative. During one evening in the middle of summer, the discussions turned to the nature of the principle of life. Perhaps a corpse would be reanimated, Mary noted. Galvanism had given token of such things. It was after midnight before they retired, and, unable to sleep, she became possessed by her imagination as she beheld the grim terrors of her waking dream. I saw the pale student of unhallowed arts kneeling beside the thing he had put together. I saw the hideous phantasm of a man stretched out, and then, on the working of some powerful engine, show signs of life, and stir with an uneasy, half-vital motion. Frightful must it be, for supremely frightful would be the effect of any human endeavor to mock the stupendous mechanism of the creator of the world. This was Shelley's inspiration for Frankenstein. How brilliant that she was able to come up with the idea of a scientist who created life who was horrified by what he had made. She was just 18 years old when she won the contest with her creation of Frankenstein. Frankenstein is one of the most well-known works of English literature, infused with elements of the Gothic novel and the Romantic movement. It has had a considerable influence on literature and on popular culture, spawning a complete genre of horror stories, films, and plays. Since the publication of the novel, the name Frankenstein has often been used incorrectly to refer to the monster rather than to his creator father, Dr. Frankenstein. Mary Shelley began writing what she assumed would be a short story, but with Percy Shelley's encouragement, she expanded the tale into a fully fledged novel. She later described that summer in Switzerland as the moment when I first stepped out from childhood into life. Shelley wrote the first 4 chapters in the weeks following the suicide of her half-sister Fanny. This was one of the many personal tragedies that impacted Shelley's work. Shelley's first child died in infancy, and when she began composing Frankenstein in 1816, she was probably nursing her second child, who was also dead by the time of Frankenstein's publication. Shelley wrote most of the book while residing in a lodging house in the center of Bath, England in 1816. Byron wrote a small piece based on the vampire legends he heard while traveling the Balkans, and from that fragment, John Polidori wrote The Vampire, which was a short story published in 1819 and is the progenitor of the romantic vampire literary genre. Thus, 2 seminal horror tales originated from the ruins of a volcanic eruption. Growing up, I and everyone else knew of Frankenstein. Doubtful many of the people I grew up with read the book or even saw the original movies, which is a travesty because of how great a piece of literature the original novel was and still is. My introduction, along with those I knew, would have come from the likes of Scooby-Doo, Halloween decorations, SNL, Young Frankenstein, and other pop culture references. When you say Frankenstein, everyone knows what it is and what you mean. Even my 3-year-old son knows who Frankenstein is. It's extraordinary and undeniable how much this monster and his creator have had on our life. Fun facts. Frankenstein's monster in the book is very swift and fast as well as intelligent. He's not clumsy and slow like what they show in the movies. He easily made friends with someone that was blind, showing that he is capable of being friends with people if it wasn't for his horrifying looks. The reason the movie is so different from the book is because the 1931 movie is based on the 1920s play by Peggy Webling, as opposed to Shelley's book. Universal bought the rights to the play and not to Shelley's book, presumably because it was recognizable to the people of the day, would be a selling point to audiences, and the book is more interior, which would be harder to film. The modern Prometheus is the novel's subtitle, even though it has been dropped in modern editions. In Greek mythology, Prometheus was the titan who created humans in the image of the gods. Shelley's original manuscripts are now housed in the Bodleian Library in Oxford. In September 2011, astronomer Donald Olson visited Lake Geneva to find the date and time that Mary Shelley had her waking dream. Olson inspected data about the motion of the moon and stars and concluded that the dream took place between 2 a.m. and 3 a.m. on June 16, 1816, several days after Lord Byron suggested that they each write a ghost story. In 1803, a real-life experiment was performed in London that involved applying electricity to the dead body of a criminal. The corpse moved and its eyes snapped open. Have you ever had a writing competition with your friends or loved ones? Would you like to? Did any good writing or stories come of it? Let me know in the comments. And let me know what other horror movies or books you'd like to know the story behind their story.